There's a rumor going around. If you like this video and subscribe, you can unlock the wood-style bloodline limit. Hi guys, this is the next part of What if Itachi Uchiha was reincarnated in the world of fairy tale? I hope you enjoy. For a moment, the massive light from Acnologia's breath attack shined like the bright sun, and then a warm feeling was felt around him, and all of his fellow guildmates felt this warmth as well. The very next moment, it all went dark. Did we die? No, it doesn't feel like death, but sleep, Itachi thought as he knew more than anyone what it truly felt like to die, and this was not it. Itachi groggily rose up, rubbing his head as he felt like he had just woken up from a long deep slumber. Wow, what happened? Itachi muttered to himself, looking around, seeing that everything was fine, like Acnologia's attack had done nothing. Although the woods around them that the dragon had destroyed with his mighty roar, had grown back. He looked around to see if he could find anyone else. He spotted the silver-haired barmaid, the one he loved, and had confessed to just before Acnologia's attack hit them. Mira Jane looked like she was sleeping peacefully. She looked fine, as if nothing had happened to her either. He looked to his left to see a red-haired armored girl that he considered his little sister, also sleeping in some bushes. We're all alive. But how? I'm certain Acnologia blasted us with his breath attack, and yet, everything seems fine, like nothing was destroyed. Hey. I found Itachi. Oh, and Mira Jane and Urza as well. He heard a familiar voice shout from the top of a hill. He looked up as the light blinded his sight. All he managed to see was a shadowy figure. It looked familiar yet so different. Jet, is that you? Itachi questioned as the blinding light faded, and indeed it was the speedster mage from his guild, only that he looked older. His clothing was different, his hair was tied up into a high ponytail, and he didn't have his hat anymore. Oh, hey guys. Another familiar voice was heard, and Itachi looked slightly to the side and saw something that made him raise his brows in surprise. It was a fatter, older version of Droy. He looked almost as fat as Ritas. Droy, Itachi uttered and blinked a few times before he returned to his stoic expression. What's going on? Itachi thought as he looked at his two guild mates. They looked like they had aged a few years, looking at him with happy, teary expressions, like they hadn't seen him for years. What happened to them? No, what happened to us? Itachi began to wonder what had happened to him and the Tenro crew. Here he was looking no different than how he looked when Acnologia attacked, and here are Jet and Droy, looking different and older, as time had slowed down for him and the Tenro crew, but not for the rest of the guild, or the world. What's going on? Itachi asked the two of them with his usual stoic Uchiha face. What happened? Urza got up, rubbing her eyes, and let out a small yawn. What's going on? Mira Jane got up and let out a small yawn as well. Wait, are you two? Urza was shaking slightly while pointing at Jet and Droy with a look of shock as to how much they have changed. Jet, Droy, Mira Jane questioned with a look of surprise, seeing how much they have changed, but she recognized them nonetheless. What happened? Why do you two look so different? Exclamation mark. And what about Acnologia? Urza questioned, looking confused, same as Mira. It's a long story. Two more people arrived, and they looked like older versions of Alzak and Biska. Alzak's hairstyle was different, it was shorter and going upwards. While Biska only looked more mature and wore a different outfit. Biska and Alzak, why do you guys look so different? Mira questioned. Like I said, it's a long story. Alzak said, and began explaining how 7 years had passed since Acnologia attacked Tenro Island. They all looked surprised to hear it, and they had a lot of questions as to what happened to them, but neither of them knew either. Itachi's best guess was that it was some sort of sealing spell. He couldn't think of a different explanation as to why 7 years had passed and he and the others had not aged at all. Is it morning? Is there any fish for me? Happy popped up from the ground, looking groggy. Happy. Biska and Alzak cried in unison. You guys are so annoying. Natsu got up from under a pile of dirt. Then more figures arrived, an older-looking Max and Warren, and then they, along with Jet and Droy, jumped Natsu with joy. What's going on? Why are you guys here? Wait, why do you all look so different? Droy, you're so fat. Natsu looked stunned. Where are the others? Itachi questioned, looking around, seeing if he could spot anyone else. They are over here. The voice of a little girl was heard. They all looked to the source, then stared at the girl in confusion, as neither of them besides Itachi knew who it was. Master Mavis, Itachi uttered, and they all looked at him in confusion. What? They all said in unison while looking at Itachi and Mavis. Itachi, did you just say, Master Mavis? Mira questioned, looking a little taken aback. Oni-san, Are you saying that little girl is the first master? Urza questioned, also looking taken aback. Yes, she talked to me before Grimoire heart attacked, apparently she's a ghost. Itachi replied with a stoic expression. A ghost? They all shouted in unison, looking a little pale. I am Fairy Tail's first master, Mavis Vermilion. Mavis introduced herself. Mavis then began moving in a direction and Itachi instantly without any hesitation followed her, and the others followed after him with a little hesitation. But if Itachi seemed to believe her and trust her, she must be telling the truth. As they went around they found member after member, comrade after comrade. And once they were all gathered in one spot. When it happened, I converted the bond and mutual trust everyone shared into magic power. Their feelings activated Fairy Sphere, one of the 3 grand fairy spells. This absolute defense spell protects the guild from all manners of evil. But everyone remained frozen inside, and it took 7 years for the seal to lift. Mavis explained to them how they survived, and how come they don't look any different despite 7 years having passed. My word, so the founding master protected us? Makarov cried, tears of joy. No, I am incorporeal. Converting your power into magic took everything I had. Unwavering conviction can also produce miracles. You've built a wonderful guild, third master. Mavis began to levitate while letting out a golden warm glow and giving them a little cute smile before she vanished into thin air, leaving them with a look of awe. So, we've been sleeping for 7 years. What happened while we were gone? Laxus questioned, and every one of the ones that weren't sealed away for 7 years were surprised to see him here. Well, Macau is the guild master now. We sort of, became the weakest guild after you guys went missing. We even lost our guild hall and several people left the guild over the years. Now our guild hall is now a small rundown tavern, our old guild hall as you guys know it. Alzak replied, and they all besides Itachi looked shocked. What? We're the weakest guild now? Natsu was outraged, and so were Gray, Gajil, Elfman and many others. It's only natural. All our elite members were here on Tenro Island. After 7 years without us, you would have to expect that our guild's social status has gone down the drain. Itachi said, looking calm and stoic as always. The kid's right. I mean, what would you expect? That we would remain number 1 with all of us gone. Guildarts said, trying to calm Natsu down. So, what, the 2 of you were the strongest members in the guild while we were gone? Gajil looked over at Alzak and Visca. I guess we were. Visca rubbed the back of her head. Well, no use in worrying about our social status now, we can regain that at any time. Let's just go back home to our guild. Itachi said and walked towards the boat which Alzak, Visca and the others came to the island with. The rest followed him and they were set out to return back home. Itachi laid on the mast with his arms behind his neck as he looked up at the blue sky. He began thinking about Zirf and what the Black Wizard told him. At least now he knew how he was brought back to life, but his dark new energy, and why Zirf brought him back, remained a mystery. He then began thinking about the Akatsuki and Madara and how he would prepare the guild to deal with them. If he showed them all his past, they would at least gain knowledge of all the Akatsuki members and Madara, which could help them. Itachi had already decided to tell them everything about him anyway. If he didn't, he could risk them hearing about it from Kakuzu and Sasori and whoever else was brought back by Zirf. And that would only end badly, as none of the Akatsuki members knew the full story besides Obito, and Nagato knew parts of it. But if they were brought back was a different question. Itachi knew that one more person besides him, Kakuzu, Sasori and Madara, were brought back by Zirf. The question was who. He could deal with all of them besides maybe Nagato and Obito, although Nagato was sealed by the Totsuka blade, so he seriously doubted that Nagato was brought back. Itachi looked down, seeing Urza standing at the end of the ship looking out at the vast blue sea. No turning back on this. Itachi leapt down from the mast and walked over to Urza. He hesitated for a second as he didn't want Urza to hate him, but this was for the best. This would help them dealing with dangerous enemies like Madara. Itachi took a deep breath and approached Urza. Urza, I need to talk to you. Urza turned around to face her brother. She remembered what she overheard Itachi talking over with the master. And Mira overheard you and the master talking about you, telling us about your past, and something about your greatest failure. Urza looked a little guilty for having overheard them. Itachi widened his eyes slightly. Is that all you heard? Itachi asked, and Urza nodded. Itachi could tell that she wasn't lying. Then again, why would she? I see. Well, I wanted you to be the first one to learn about it. Could you tell me too now? Mira stood behind him and she had a slight look of concern but also curiosity. I suppose you wouldn't wait even if I told you to. Fine, I will tell both of you. Remember what I told you about my family? Itachi asked with his eyes filled with sadness. Yeah, they were killed by an assassin hired by your village. Urza said. That was only partially true, there was an assassin, however he wasn't hired, he was given a choice. Itachi said, and they both looked at him with confusing glances. But, why would he choose to kill your family? Who was this assassin even? Mira questioned. Itachi hung his head down and they both widened their eyes after having put the pieces together. Don't tell me, Urza uttered while shaking with her eyes widened. And no, you can't be serious, Mira uttered with a look of fear of what the truth was. I was the assassin, I killed my own flesh and blood. And in return I stopped a war and my baby brother was allowed to live, Itachi said, and they both were taken aback by this confession. Wait, you said your brother died? Mira said as both she and Urza looked confused. I lied, the truth is I don't know if he's alive or dead. Itachi said as his eyes were filled with sadness and grief. But, why would you lie about your brother being dead? I don't get it, Urza said as they both still looked just as confused. Because it wouldn't matter, I would never see him again anyway. You see, like our old friend Mistogen, I am from a different world. Not like Daedalus, as there were no alternate versions of either of you. Urza and Mira looked shocked, but they believed him as, like Itachi mentioned, Mistogen was proof of other worlds existing. My world is a world filled with shinobi, it's called the Element of Nations. I used to live in a village known as Konoha, or the Hidden Leaf Village, which was in the Land of Fire. I was a part of one of the founding clans of my village, the Uchiha clan. It would be easier to just show you the story of Itachi Uchiha of Konoha. I wouldn't blame either of you for hating me after what you will see. Itachi activated his Sharingan that flared up in a bright red color. Urza and Mira Jane's heartbeats increased for a moment. The next moment, for both the young women, the scenery changed. They were in a deserted field with explosions being heard in the background as well as war cries. They could smell the burning scent of fire. They walked over the hill and looked down to see hundreds of men, young teens and even young boys that couldn't be older than 12, fighting in a battlefield. The field was filled with either fighting shinobi or corpses. They could smell the rotten scent from the corpses, burned flesh, the smell of blood. They both looked at the scene in horror. What is this? Mira questioned as she placed her hand over her mouth and nose to avoid the rotten smell of the dead. Why are they fighting? Stop this at once. Urza shouted down at the crowd, yet they could not hear her. It was like she wasn't even there. They can't hear or see you. This is nothing but a memory, my memory. Itachi's voice echoed through their minds. Wait, your memories, Mira uttered when she heard someone walking beside her. She looked to the source and saw a little boy that couldn't be older than 4 years old. He had short black raven hair and black eyes, he was dressed in a black shirt with the mark of a red-white fan on his back, and he was wearing cargo shorts with hilt on the side for weapons. Mira widened her eyes when she saw the boy look like a little Itachi. Urza had the same look as Mira when she saw little Itachi, who was looking out at the battlefield before them. This is the third great ninja war. They could hear the little Itachi's thoughts clear as day. How old were you? Mira questioned as she had a look of sorrow for the little Itachi. I was 4, Itachi replied, and they both looked at the little Itachi with grief and sorrow. Once the battle was over, the little Itachi walked through the field of corpses from friendlies to enemies. The rotten smell of the corpses was unbearable, yet the young boy kept walking. Urza and Mira followed the little boy and had a look of sadness. Water. Water. An injured man pleaded, and little Itachi rushed over to him and gave the man some water. Thanks, the man uttered and then widened his eyes. Shinobi tools! ! The man quickly grabbed a kunai and was about to stab the little boy. In a flash he slit the man's throat with a kunai. Urza and Mira gasped seeing this. Why would he try and kill you? Urza questioned and clenched her fist in anger. I was a shinobi not from his nation, and this is a war, you can't trust anyone besides those from your own country, was what everyone thought at this point. Itachi's voice replied. How horrible. Mira almost had tears falling from her eyes after hearing this. Then a grown man stood behind little Itachi. Father, why did this shinobi try and kill me? I didn't do anything. Little Itachi asked the man who was his father Fugaku. Because this is war. Itachi's father's powerful words dug deeply into the young boy's heart. The little boy looked out at the memory that would remain in his memories for the rest of his life. Bodies. Mountains of bodies. In a few years, you will be a ninja too. This war might end, but the reality of the ninja does not change. This is the world you will step into. They couldn't believe what kind of a world Itachi was born in where this was the reality. They could feel the feelings of little Itachi holding back his tears. He wasn't sad, the feeling was indescribable, yet the young Uchiha kept his stoic face. Father, why did you bring me here? His father was silent. You are a clever boy. I wanted to make sure you saw this reality. His father said, and the young Itachi's mind was not able to find the meaning of the word, but he could find out what it meant. Erza and Mira looked at Itachi's father with slight anger. Why would he bring such a young child to a battlefield? Just to show him reality. Erza gritted her teeth and wanted to punch this man across the face, but she knew it was impossible as this was nothing but a mere memory. This is the world I live in, young Itachi uttered. That's right, Itachi. Ninjas are creatures that fight. Never forget what you've seen here today. His father's words hit young Itachi deeply, and he decided that he would change this reality one day. He would change the world. The scenery then changed. It was a memorial of all those who had died during the war, families crying and mourning over the death of their friends and family members. Young Itachi stood before a pale-looking man with long dark hair named Orochimaru. What is the meaning of life? Young Itachi asked. There is none, there is only meaning in life if it's eternal. Orochimaru replied and walked away from the mourning ceremony. How dare he tell that to a young child? Mira shouted in outrage, and Erza felt the same anger. There is meaning in life, there is. Orochimaru, a man obsessed with living forever, and he desired to unravel all this world's secrets and mysteries. Itachi's voice explained it to them. The scene changed once again. This time Itachi was standing on the top of a very high cliff. Itachi looked sad as he stared down at the bottom of the cliff. There is no meaning in life. The young boy thought before he threw himself off the cliff as he plummeted to the ground. Mira and Erza gasped, then suddenly they were both falling with him. The sound of crows was heard. This made the young boy wake up and quickly brought out 2 kunai knives and stabbed them into the stone wall, trying to stop his fall. And after a few tries he managed to land safely on the ground while looking at the crow. No one wants to die, right? The young boy told the crow. Then suddenly a murder of crows began circling him. You guys, the little boy stretched his arm out as a crow landed on it. I found a meaning to my life later on. Itachi's voice echoed through their mind, and they both looked in anticipation. The scene changed and they were in a hospital room. Young Itachi was with his father standing on the side of his mother, who was on a bed holding a newborn baby boy. My baby brother Sasuke. A new life, a new life. Young Itachi thought as he gently poked baby Sasuke's cheek. This is your new baby brother. Take good care of him, Itachi. Itachi's mother Makoto said while looking at her son with a warm, loving smile. Yes. Young Itachi nodded his head. Erza and Mira looked at this scene with a happy, warm smile. They were glad to see things improve from all the sadness they had witnessed in Itachi's life so far. There is one thing I don't understand though. Why would you have to kill them in the future? Mira questioned as her smile faded, as she knew more pain was about to come. Just watch and everything will be revealed. Itachi said, and the scene once again changed. Young Itachi sat with little baby Sasuke in his arms while looking up at the full moon. Why did mom and dad have to be out so late? Little Itachi thought when suddenly baby Sasuke began to cry. There, don't worry Sasuke. No matter what, your big brother will always protect you. The young Itachi looked at his brother with a smile, when suddenly the wind changed and he could feel that something was coming. A massive puff of smoke appeared in the center of the village, and out from the smoke came a gigantic 9-tailed orange-furred fox that let out a powerful roar. It began rampaging around the village, killing several innocents. Little Itachi held a crying baby Sasuke as their house was destroyed. There, that scared you, huh? Itachi, despite the situation, stayed strong for his brother and comforted him. That fox, it feels like what happened with Acnologia. How are you going to defeat it? Erza questioned as she and Mira were shaking and staring in horror at the massacre the giant fox brought upon the village. After some time passed, they were once again gathered at the memorial, mourning the deaths of the ones they lost during the Nine Tails attack, and among the dead were the 4th Hokage Minato and his wife Kushina, and in front of the memorial was a crying little baby boy with blonde hair. What is with that baby? Why is no one tending to him? Mira questioned. That is Naruto, the child of the 4th Hokage and his wife Kushina, who are both dead. Not to mention he has become the most hated child in the village now. He has the 9-tailed fox sealed inside him. Itachi said. What? But he's just a baby. Why would they hate him because he has that fox in him? Urza questioned in confusion, as it wasn't Naruto's fault that the Nine Tails killed so many people. People fear what they don't understand. They have lost so many loved ones at the hands of the Nine Tails, and they need someone to take their pain, anger and hatred out on. They all thought, what would be better than throwing all that on a little boy who has that very monster inside him? Itachi replied as he, like them, thought they were all fools for hating a child who had nothing to do with it. They noticed the little Itachi looking over at a young girl about his age with dark brown hair and black eyes, who cried her eyes out. She was from the Uchiha clan like Itachi, although only her mother came from the clan. Her father was a normal shinobi who died. She was Izumi Uchiha. Who is she? Mira questioned. Izumi Uchiha, a person who would one day become very precious to me, and become my lover. Itachi replied, and the two girls looked stunned. Why your lover? Mira looked a little jealous about this. The scene changed to Itachi starting at the academy, acing all classes, becoming popular with the female population, Izumi scaring away some bullies who wanted to fight Itachi with her Sharingan. Then a year later, came his graduation. He graduated early because of his immense talent. He ended up on a team called Team 2. With one of the boys who bullied him and a girl at the same age as the boy who came from a different country, and their Jonin sensei. They saw a 7-year-old Itachi going on different missions with his team, clearly the most talented of the group, even more than his sensei. Then one day during the escort mission of a feudal lord, Itachi's team encountered a masked man who had easily put everyone besides Itachi and the boy Tenma under a genjutsu and knocked them out. Itachi was frozen, feeling the difference in power between him and this masked individual. Tenma charged towards the masked man with a kunai. He thrusted the kunai towards the masked man's head, but it was like he slipped right through, like the man was nothing but a ghost. The masked man then swung his blade into Tenma, and Itachi could only watch in horror as his teammate was killed in an instant. After all this time he had established a friendship with this Tenma. Itachi's black eyes turned red with two black tomos in them. Why would you risk your life for your village? Just back down and you will live. The masked man said in a deep cold voice as he approached young Itachi. Mira and Urza, like the young Itachi, only look in horror as the man walked towards the young Itachi. I am a shinobi of Konoha, I will not back down. The young Uchiha said despite his body trembling. How unfortunate, you are brave, I will give you that. The masked man charged towards Itachi and was about to stab him, but then he stopped in his tracks. This presence, Hitaki Kakashi. The man vanished in a swirl from his mask's one-eye hole. They kept watching Itachi trying to overcome his friend's death, and eventually he came back to his old self, began training with his best friend Shisui Uchiha, and once again went on missions with his team, without Tenma or Shinko, the girl who had retired from being a shinobi after Tenma's death. And despite his sensei trying to hold Itachi back out of jealousy for Itachi's talent, Itachi finally was allowed to take the Chunin exam alone, thanks to Danzo and the third Hokage. Itachi became a Chunin at the age of 10, having completed the entire exam alone. Urza and Mira watched as Itachi progressed through his life as a prodigy, living a happy life with his beloved younger brother and family. However, there was something hidden deep within this happy life, something dark. The scene changed to Itachi being in an underground room underneath the Uchiha shrine. Here Itachi's father and the rest of the Uchiha clan, besides the children who weren't yet shinobi, were plotting a coup against the village. Mira and Urza were shocked at finding out that the Uchiha clan was plotting something like this. They certainly understood why they were angry. After being driven to the outskirts of the village where they were under constant surveillance by the Anbu. As the Nine Tails attack, a few years ago, it was suspected that a Uchiha was behind it, as only those with Sharingan could control the beast. They were discriminated in a village their ancestors helped build, but still going to start a civil war and risk the lives of thousands, didn't sit right with Urza and Mira Jane. And the same was for the young Itachi in this memory. Itachi would speak out, but last time he did that he was met by hate from his fellow clansmen that called him a traitor. Itachi would try and convince them to solve this differently, that the villagers weren't their enemies, they all lived in the same village, they were all a part of it. But one of his father's attendants would threaten to beat him, but his father would always stop his attendant and tell Itachi to apologize, which he would. Itachi and Shisui had tried to find a way to solve all of this as peacefully as possible, as they knew if a civil war broke out in the village, other enemy nations would attack to get control over their territory. And the Fourth Great Ninja War would break out, and if the coup happened, the Uchiha would meet their doom. If they launched a coup, they would either be killed by the Konoha military, or the enemy nations that would attack them when they were weakened, and no matter how powerful the Uchiha were, they would lose and die. Shisui had a plan to stop the coup with his genjutsu, the most powerful genjutsu of all time, Koda Matsukami. However, fate would not be so kind. The next scene, Urza and Mira Jane stood at a cliff with a young Itachi in his Anbu gear and his friend Shisui. The coup seems inevitable now. When I tried to stop this with my Koto Matsukami, Danzo stole my right eye. Shisui turned around to reveal his right eye was missing as a trail of blood fell from his eye. That man doesn't trust me at all. He intends to protect the village his way no matter the consequences. I assume he will be coming after my left eye soon. Shisui brought his hand over his left eye and began plucking it out. Urza and Mira gasped in horror as they witnessed this scene. Why? That jutsu could have ended all of it. So why did this Danzo take his eye? Mira questioned as her body was shaking out of anger. It seemed this Danzo wanted nothing more than to exterminate Itachi's people. Urza herself felt the desire to stab this Danzo. Danzo viewed the Koto Matsukami as a temporary solution. Eventually the Uchiha would just start plotting a coup again if the discrimination didn't stop. Plus, it wouldn't silence the hatred of the Uchiha who held a strong hatred towards the village. The Koto Matsukami would only have been used on my father and the other top guys of the clan, the rest wouldn't be under it. But this was the only solution on how the Uchiha clan could survive. It was the clan's last hope and chance for survival, at the time that is. Itachi said with sorrow in his voice. I will give it to you before he can take it. You're the only one I can trust, my best friend. Please protect the village and our clan's name. Shisui said with a smile as he handed Itachi his left eye. One of Itachi's crows took the eye and vanished. I trust you, and I am sorry for leaving you alone with such a burden. Itachi, forgive me. I will leave the rest to you. Shisui said as he threw himself off the cliff. Shisui. Itachi shouted and ran to the edge of the cliff to see Shisui fall to his death. The sadness and grief was too much for him to bear. His eyes flared blood red, and with a black pinwheel, he awoke his Mangekyo Sharingan. Mira and Urza shed tears as they could feel Itachi's sadness and grief. They couldn't believe what he had gone through, yet they didn't know the worst was yet to come. The scene changed to Itachi standing in front of Danzo after years of trying to persuade the Uchiha to change their mind, years of begging his father to stop, and a short time since Shisui's death and Itachi being the #1 suspect by the police force which was run by his clan for the death of Shisui. Whether it results in war or not, the moment the coup d'etat happens, the Uchiha will lock themselves into a fate of annihilation. Including your innocent little brother who knows nothing. Danzo played on the one thing he knew would work, the one person Itachi cared about the most, Sasuke, and Urza and Mira were disgusted by this. Is that a threat? A 13-year-old Itachi asked. No, I just want you to make a choice. Either align with the Uchiha, launch the coup d'etat, and die along with your clan, or side with the Leaf, save your little brother before the coup d'etat and then help us eliminate all other Uchiha. Itachi, this will be the most painful mission for you. Will you accept this mission? It will allow your little brother to be spared. I know you care about the village as much as I. Do you accept? Danzo asked, and Itachi didn't talk. He just turned around and walked away in silence. No way. Mira uttered, taken aback by this, being forced to kill your family so that you can spare your younger sibling. It was unbelievable. Urza felt the same way as Mira. How dare he? The coward. Doesn't want to get his own hands dirty. Urza gritted her teeth and clenched his own fists in frustration. If anyone from the village had done it, they would be looked down upon by the public, and so would the government. Which is what Danzo wanted to avoid, but using me, a single individual, he could put the blame on, making it seem like it was all the work of a single madman. While he said to me that if his forces had done it, Sasuke would bear hatred towards the Leaf and would have to die too, so that the village wouldn't eventually be the victim of his vengeance. Itachi explained. The young Itachi felt conflicted. No matter what, the Uchiha clan was doomed. They would die either during the coup or during the war that would follow. Even if he had spared civilians of the clan, he knew that Danzo wouldn't risk them being alive, and the root would hunt them down and kill them, including Sasuke. But if Itachi did this and committed the massacre, he knew Danzo thought he wouldn't succeed and that Itachi's own clansmen would kill him. But with the ones Itachi had taken out, Danzo would send in the root to finish the job and kill Sasuke. Itachi knew that there was no way he could take out the entire police force, which is what Danzo was counting on to exterminate every last Uchiha for good. But, there was one Uchiha that no one else knew was still alive. The young Itachi thought back to that masked man, who before had vanished, showed he had a Sharingan. Itachi had secretly tracked and studied the man for quite some time. And this man could help him give the Uchiha clan a chance to live on in the future, not in many numbers, but at least the bloodline would still live on. The scene changed to Itachi in the woods standing before the masked man. "How did you manage to find me?" The masked man questioned, a little amazed at the skills this boy had. "You slipped through extra tight leaf security and went to examine Nakano Shrine's secret stone tablet. Only the Uchiha clan knows where it is located. Next, all I had to do was study what kind of a character you were," Itachi said, and the masked man was amazed. "Well, that saves me much time. For you already know that I bear hatred towards the leaf in my own clan, the Uchiha," the masked man said. "I will help you exact revenge upon the Uchiha clan. But you are not to harm the village itself, nor Sasuke Uchiha." Itachi said his demands. In the end, the masked man came with the demand that Itachi would join his organization, the Akatsuki. They also learned that Itachi thought this masked man was his ancestor, the strongest Uchiha of all time, Madara Uchiha, and they learned why Itachi feared him. "So, is this Madara?" Urza questioned as she felt the overwhelming presence of this masked man. "No, I learned thanks to Commander Itachi and Edalis that this was really a man named Obito Uchiha. However, I have learned that Madara was brought back to life in your world by Zirf, and he's the real deal," Itachi replied, and both the girls began to look confused. "Wait, Zirf brought this Madara here? Then did he bring you here as well?" Mira questioned. "Yes, I learned this from Zirf himself before Acnologia showed up," Itachi's voice replied. "Wait, so hang on. These guys we have met recently that recognized you, they are from this world as well?" Urza questioned, thinking back on Sasori, and Mira thought back on Kakuzu. "Yes, they are. You will meet them soon by watching these memories." Apparently Zirf brought one more person back besides Sasori, Kakuzu and Madara, so another reason for me showing this to you is so that you can better understand them in case we have to fight them in the future, Itachi explained, and they continued to watch Itachi's memories leading up to the full moon night of the massacre. I just can't believe it. You're such a kind person, you're loving, you care so much for your friends, why? Why would they make you do such a thing? Why would fate put you in this position?" Mira had tears fall down her eyes as she couldn't believe what Itachi had been forced to do in his life. "I don't know, society just turned out this way through an endless circle of hatred," Itachi said. "This world is cruel and horrible, you deserve better, your brother and clan deserve better," Urza gritted her teeth. "The whole world deserved better," Itachi said. The scene changed into Itachi walking up to the Uchiha compound. He had his Anbu gear on, and vanished at high speed. He appeared outside of a house, the house of his lover, Izumi Uchiha. He lured her mother out first and then entered the house. "Itachi-kun, what's wrong?" Izumi walked up to Itachi with a confused look on her face. "Forgive me, Izumi," Itachi uttered and activated his Mangekyo. Tsukuyomi. Izumi went through her whole life in a genjutsu. She became a chunin, her retiring from being a shinobi to marry Itachi, starting a family with Itachi and living out their last days peacefully until she died of old age by his side. Itachi by doing this made Izumi's brain think her body was aging until it reached the age of her death and was about to shut itself down, killing her peacefully. "Thank you, Itachi-kun, for giving me the life I always wanted," Izumi uttered as Itachi held her body in his arms. "Thank you, Izumi, for loving me," Itachi thanked as he couldn't hold back his tears as her body turned cold in his arms. Then Izumi's mother came back and he killed her with a quick slice from his katana. He wished he could give everyone a painless peaceful death, but he didn't have enough chakra to use the Tsukuyomi to kill everyone. Mira and Urza cried out tears of sadness at Izumi's death and on Itachi's sadness, which was overwhelming. Itachi then went further into the Uchiha compound, on his way to kill one of his father's aides, who was a sensory type. If he didn't finish him off now, things would become way too complicated as he could gather up Uchiha police force members to fight against him. Itachi arrived at his house and saw the younger short-haired Uchiha that was one of the three that accused him of killing Shisui, and who Itachi beat down until his father stopped him. The man was about to go and gather up the police force until Itachi jumped in front of him. He flared up his Sharingan and was about to charge at Itachi. He placed Itachi under a genjutsu, but Itachi activated his Mangekyo and quickly broke free. Itachi then without any hesitation stabbed the man in the stomach and watched him die before moving on. Itachi decided to finish off his father's other two aides. He went to the eldest of the three men and killed his parents and son. The elderly man who had accused Itachi of being a traitor many times fled. Itachi followed him and knocked him to the ground. "Spare me," the man uttered. This man who had pushed Fugaku into plotting the coup d'état in the first place, didn't care if millions would die from his foolishness as they were not of the Uchiha, accused him of killing Shisui, and had prevented Itachi from trying to convince his father and other clan members to change their minds, was begging for his life. Itachi narrowed his eyes and used Tsukuyomi on the man, torturing him for 3 days. Once it was done, Itachi cut off his head, ending his life. The final aid, the long-haired Uchiha man, Itachi snuck into his house and stabbed the man's wife from behind. He shouted in rage at Itachi and waved the signs for a fire-style jutsu. Itachi without any hesitation and in an instant killed him with his katana. Now the ones who could rally up the police force besides his father were dead. Itachi then went on to sneaking into people's houses and killing them one by one, and Erza and Mira watched in horror as they felt Itachi's feelings of sadness, regret, grief, him wishing things could have turned out differently. Tears wouldn't stop running down these girls' eyes as the feelings and emotions were too powerful and overwhelming. They were amazed that the Itachi in the memories could keep a stoic, emotionless face up during all this. Heck, they were amazed that Itachi wasn't insane after all this. Blood splattered across the rooms, his blade stained, his face stained, his hands, all stained with the blood of his people. Itachi entered a locked storage room. 10 young children about Sasuke's age walked out of hiding. "Itachi, what's going on? Our parents told us to hide here and they haven't come back. What are we going to do?" a young boy questioned as they all looked at Itachi thinking he was their savior. Itachi couldn't speak. His emotions overwhelmed him and prevented him from uttering a single word. All he could do was cry a line of tear from his right eye as his Sharingan flared bright red. He then grabbed the katana from the hilt of his back and drew it as the young boy backed up a little in confusion. These children would have died either way, was what went through Itachi's mind, either from the coup or the war that would follow. Or even if Itachi had spared them and helped them escape the village, Danzo would have the root hunt them down and kill them. Erza and Mira were stunned, as they witnessed Itachi killing every last one of the Uchiha clan in his area, while the masked man took out anyone at the Uchiha police district area. Itachi in the end entered his own house. His parents on their knees knowing what was coming, and they had accepted it. "I see, so you have aligned yourself with the other side," Fugaku said. "Father, mother, Itachi uttered as he was overcome with emotions from the inside. "We already know, Itachi," Makoto said calmly. "Itachi, just promise me this." Fugaku spoke and Itachi paid close attention to his father's final wish. "That you will take care of Sasuke." Tears began running down Itachi's eyes as his body was shaking, his blade was shaking. "I will, do not fear, this is the path you have chosen. Compared to you, our pain will be over in an instant. Even if our philosophies differ, I am proud of you. You are truly a kind child." Fugaku spoke his last words as Itachi cried and swung his katana down on the back of both his parents, killing them. What happened next? With Sasuke entering the room, Itachi pretending to be a villain trying to make his brother hate him so that he would grow up stronger and one day kill him. Sasuke cried out of fear as Itachi told him he wasn't even worth killing, telling him and encouraging him to one day come and face him and try and kill him. Sasuke almost passed out, but the trauma he suffered made him awaken his Sharingan. Sasuke mustered up his willpower to attack Itachi. He threw kunai knives at him and managed to scratch his headband. Right when Sasuke passed out, Itachi shed a trail of tears. Mira and Erza couldn't watch anymore. The pain and the sadness and the tears from both Itachi and Sasuke became too much to witness. They cried their hearts out for the Uchiha brothers. Itachi then met up with the masked man as it was all done. Once Itachi confirmed he would meet up with him later, the man vanished in a whirl. Itachi fell to his knees on a rooftop and cried his heart out. A few hours later, the Anbu and the Root arrived to gather up the corpses. The third Hokage scolding Danzo for this and removing him from power. Then Danzo walked with 2 aides. "Lord Danzo, the body count doesn't add up." "What?" Danzo questioned. "It was like they disappeared," the aide said, and they both looked at the second aide. "I witnessed everything." The man was Itachi. His Mangekyo flared from behind his mask's eyeholes. "If you as much as touch Sasuke, I will pass on classified village intel to every enemy nation." Itachi threatened and vanished in a murder of crows. "Damn you," Danzo cursed in defeat. "Serves him right," Erza uttered bitterly as she had grown hatred towards this Danzo. The same applied for Mira. She hated the man who put Itachi in this position. The scene changed into Itachi begging the third Hokage to keep Sasuke safe and to inform him that he will join the Akatsuki to keep a close eye on them, and supply information to the village about them. Then Itachi fled the village and was won a rowboat with the masked man that took him to meet Pain. You are from here on Itachi Uchiha, of the Akatsuki. A man with orange spiky hair, purple eyes with a ripple pattern and multiple piercings around his body, he wore a black cloak with red clouds. This was Pain, the so-called leader of the Akatsuki, handed Itachi a ring after Itachi had cut a mark over the leaf symbol on his headband symbolizing that he was a rogue ninja. So, this is how you knew them, you joined a terrorist organization to spy on them. Mira admired that despite everything Itachi had to do for his village, now being a rogue, despite that he still helped his home and brother from the shadows. Urza felt admiration for Itachi after seeing everything he did for his comrades and loved ones despite them hating him. They went on to witness Itachi's earlier days in the Akatsuki, going on jobs with his partner Juzo, who would later die during a battle against the fourth Mizukage, the one who was the host of the Three Tails, one of the nine-tailed beasts. And now Itachi was sitting on a dock waiting for his new partner. I'll be teaming up with you from now on. I'm Kisame Hoshigaki, formerly of the Hidden Mist, and an ex-member of the Seven Ninja Swordsmen. Pleased to meet you. A tall man with shark-like features and shark-like skin, he had spiky dark blue hair, a gigantic sword wrapped up in bandages strapped on his back, and he wore the same Akatsuki cloak as Itachi and all the other members. And you are Itachi Uchiha, formerly of the Hidden Leaf. I've heard the rumors, you slaughtered all of your fellow Uchiha clansmen. Kisame said, and Itachi stayed silent as he did not like being reminded of that night. I understand you well. That's the reason why I decided to team up with you in the Akatsuki. The sensation that comes from killing your comrade is indescribable, isn't it, Itachi? That ignorant fool, Urza uttered. That so-called ignorant fool, would become a very close friend of mine actually. Itachi admitted as he did have a close friendship with Kisame, although neither of them would hesitate to kill each other should it ever come to it. He remembered the one time when Kisame would warn him about betraying the Akatsuki, and that if Itachi betrayed them that he himself would most likely have to kill him. A friend? Why? Was he like you? Mira questioned. No, he was a simple lost soul who didn't know his place in the world. He was raised to do one thing and one thing only. The mission comes first, and anything that gets in the way of the mission must be exterminated. He and I grew a sense of mutual trust in each other over the years we worked together. However, we would kill each other if we had to. Itachi explained his complicated relationship with this shark man. What will you do if he was brought to our world like you were? Urza asked as she was curious. That depends. If he's against me, I would fight him and maybe even kill him if he threatens the lives of our friends in the guild. Or if he turns out to not be against me, I guess he and I could continue our friendship. Itachi replied. How did Zirf bring you guys here anyway? Did he just open a portal and snatched you out of your world or something? And how long is it until that happens anyway? You're already at the same age you were at when you and Urza joined the guild, right? Mira questioned. Yeah, that's right, so when does it happen? Soon. Urza questioned. No, when Zirf brought me back he said he somehow altered my age, he wouldn't give me more than that. Itachi replied, and the two girls raised their brow in confusion. Wait, how old are you? Mira questioned. Well, I'm not sure how long I was with Zirf as I have no memory of waking up in your world until I was 13 again, and now I'm 21. But since my age was reduced and I was brought back in a new world, I guess you could consider it being reborn. But Zirf took me when I was 21 here in my old world. Itachi explained. So, you've been alive longer, but you're still actually the same age now since your body and age was altered. This is getting confusing. Urza rubbed her temple. You talk a lot. Itachi finally spoke to Kisame as the bystanders went back to watching Itachi's memories. You may know a lot about me, but what about yourself? You got lost in the mist and ended up here. You're just a thug who couldn't figure out where to go. Isn't that so? Kisame raised his sword and held it over Itachi's shoulder. Do you want to know something interesting? Some sharks are ovoviviparous, which means the eggs hatch inside the female's body, then are born. However, with some kinds of sharks, the number of eggs that hatch don't match up with the number of pups born. Do you know why? Cannibalism. When the eggs hatch, the pups resort to cannibalizing their siblings in their mother's belly. From the moment they are born, the fratricide begins. Other than itself, every other pup is fodder. Kisame said, and Urza and Mira flinched slightly in disgust. The Itachi in the memories didn't even flinch. From today, you and I belong to the Akatsuki. Please be wary of me. Itachi morphed his eyes into his Mangekyo. The same goes for you too. Anyway, let's have fun together. Kisame lifted his sword over his shoulder. And hope that we're not the last two facing each other. Anyone who has raised their hands against a comrade, even once, never dies a decent death. Remember that. Itachi stood up and turned around to face his new partner. Kisame let out a small chuckle. Which means you and I are both worthless. No, we aren't fish, we're human. Itachi walked past Kisame. No matter who you are, you do not know what kind of human you are until the very end. One realizes their true nature at the moment of death. That's the way to view death. As always, you're such a philosopher. Mira had a sorrowful smile as she still felt sad from having watched Itachi's cruel life. The scene changed into Itachi and Kisame standing before a young Naruto in a hotel, and Sasuke showing up. To see you die. It ends here, Sasuke declared with his two-tomo Sharingan flaring up bright red while his hand had lightning flickering around it. Sasuke jabbed his hand into the wall and ran towards Itachi while shouting in rage. Die. Itachi caught Sasuke's hand with ease as the wall behind him exploded. Itachi looked down at Sasuke with a sorrowful glance, yet Sasuke did not focus on that, he was too blinded by rage. Mira and Urza watched with sadness as Sasuke insisted on fighting, leaving Itachi with no choice, but to beat Sasuke to a bloody pulp. Even when this Jiraiya showed up, Sasuke still fought, but to no avail, he was too weak. Itachi kept thinking, "Forgive me, Sasuke, forgive me," was the thought he kept thinking as he punched Sasuke and pulled him up against the wall. He then placed Sasuke under the Tsukuyomi, making him relive the massacre. "You're still too weak, you don't have enough hate. And you know something, you never will," Itachi whispered into Sasuke's ear. Then his opportunity to find a reason to escape came as Jiraiya did the toad mouth trap jutsu. Kisame and Itachi both managed to escape. The memories kept going with Itachi and Kisame going on missions for the Akatsuki and capturing Jinchuriki. They even discovered that Itachi had caught the deadly illness he almost died from 7 years ago. The scene changed into Itachi standing before an older-looking Naruto. Naruto charged, but a murder of crows flew out from Itachi's body and the sky turned red. "You are already under my genjutsu. I will say this once again, I just want to talk." Itachi went on to ask Naruto why he cared for Sasuke, who was a rogue ninja now, and what he would do if Sasuke ever turned against the leaf. "I will protect the leaf. And I will stop Sasuke without killing him," Naruto declared. "You're such a child. Everything you have said is nothing but mere wishful thinking. Shinobi must be able to make very harsh decisions," Itachi said. "Someone once told me something like that before. But I have no choice. To never go back on my word, that is my ninja way," Naruto declared, and Itachi shockingly smiled. The next moment a crow flew into Naruto's mouth and down his throat. "What the heck?" Urza said shockingly, and both she and Mira looked like they were almost about to throw up. "I have shared some of my power with you, though I pray the day you have to use it never comes," Itachi said before he undid the genjutsu and vanished. The scene then changed to the Uchiha hideout, with Sasuke standing before Itachi. "What my eyes are seeing right now is, Itachi, it's you dead at my feet," Sasuke declared, looking a little older. "Me dead at your feet, eh? HN, well then. Go on, make it happen." Itachi in a flash stood beside Sasuke and the battle began. Mira and Urza began to look concerned. They knew Itachi had gotten sick and hasn't tried anything to get himself healed. They watched as the fight kept on going, from Itachi letting Sasuke break free from the Tsukuyomi, from Sasuke using Kirin, from Itachi using his Susanoo to seal away Orochimaru. They then watched in horror as Itachi coughed up blood, and the fear they felt back when they thought he was going to die returned. "No, no," Mira cried as she feared what was going to happen, while Urza clenched her fists holding back her tears. Itachi slowly approached Sasuke, who had his back up against the wall, shaking out of fear. Itachi reached out his bloody hand towards Sasuke's eyes from the looks of it, but then Itachi looked at Sasuke with a smile. "Sorry Sasuke, but this is it," Itachi said in a very low tone and poked Sasuke's forehead like he used to do when they were kids. Itachi then fell face first into the wall, then onto his knees, and turned his body to the side and fell on his back. He had died, and everything went dark as the last thing Itachi saw was Sasuke. Mira fell to her knees while crying after having watched Itachi die, and felt his suffering. Urza couldn't hold back her tears, but she kept up a brave face. "Zirf didn't just bring you to our world, did he?" Urza uttered, and Itachi didn't respond. He brought you back to life. It's not over yet, Itachi's voice said, and they both looked up to see Itachi along with a few other Akatsuki members walk out of coffins dressed in a dark red robe. What is this? Mira questioned with wide eyes. Edo Tensai, a jutsu that brings back the dead inside a zombie-like body where they are controlled by the caster. This is the fourth great ninja war that Obito started while I was dead. Itachi said. They defiled your grave, Urza questioned in anger. They went on to see Itachi and Nagato aka Pain fight against Naruto, who had learned to control the Nine Tails chakra, and Killer Bee the Eight Tails. They were shocked to hear that Sasuke had found out the truth and decided to destroy the Leaf Village, which Itachi had given his life to protect. Then they were amazed by how Itachi had prepared for this situation by using the crow with Shisui's eye. From the crow he gave Naruto to break him free of Kabuto's control. Itachi helping Naruto and Killer Bee defeating Nagato and sealed him with the Totsuka blade. Itachi giving some encouraging words to Naruto before leaving to take on Kabuto and undo the Edo Tensai. As he was jumping through some tree branches, Sasuke appeared and stared at him with shock. Sasuke jumped after Itachi and demanded answers as to why Itachi only spared him during the massacre. Itachi told him why, that Sasuke was just a child who knew nothing and he had no part in the Uchiha clan's folly. He then replied with, "Properly speaking, I'm dead now, there is no point in talking any further. When you were alive all you ever did was flick my forehead saying forgive me and running away. And now that you're dead, you're still running away." Sasuke shouted. "I'm not running away, I told you there is something I must do. I must stop the reanimation jutsu," Itachi declared. They then arrived inside a cave, and the two brothers came together to fight against Kabuto. The fight ended with Itachi putting Kabuto under a genjutsu known as Izanami and then made Kabuto undo the Edo Tensai. Sasuke said his goodbyes to his beloved older brother, and then Itachi turned around and used a genjutsu on Sasuke, showing him everything he has shown Urza and Mira Jane now. And once it was over, Itachi was glowing and walking towards Sasuke. "I have told you the whole truth. I won't have to, ever again. I have always lied to you, and asked for your forgiveness while keeping you at a distance. Because I wanted to keep you out of this." Itachi reached his hand out towards Sasuke, who was taken aback. "But now, I think that perhaps you could have changed father, mother, the whole Uchiha clan. If I had only come to you from the start, looked you straight in the eyes, and told you the truth, then I wouldn't have to stand before you as a failure telling you all of this, but I want to impart at least this much truth to you." Itachi gently placed his hand on the back of his brother's head. "You don't ever have to forgive me, and whatever you do from here on out, know this, I will always love you." Itachi gave his final words to his brother, and Urza and Mira watched this scene with tears running down their eyes, as Itachi's soul left his body and vanished in a flash of light. Then before Mira and Urza knew it, they were back on the boat as they lived through 17 years of Itachi's life, and it looked like not even a second had passed. They stood before Itachi, who looked at them emotionlessly, then he smiled at them. "Neither of you need to forgive me, I just want both of you to know, even if you hate me for what I have done, I will love you always," Itachi said, and they both had tears running down their eyes as they suddenly embraced him in a hug. "We could never hate you, you idiot," Urza cried as she tightened the hug. "We love you and care about you, we will never hate you," Mira cried as she tightened her hug as well. Itachi looked a little stunned, but then he smiled a little. Itachi had tears of joy run down his face as he hugged them back. Makarov looked at the scene from a little distant with a warm fatherly smile as he knew what just happened. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The next episode will be out soon.